This information may be interpreted as science fiction or however the viewer decides. It is shared for entertainment purposes, although we take it with utmost importance. Class 7. Are we alone in the universe? Stellar people.
Welcome back. So good to be able to continue. So how have you been? How have you felt about not being alone in the universe, or at least about the possibility? I know it can bring all kinds of different reactions. It's natural. This subject is one of the most important ones to be aware of, as it affects our reality on all levels. And we will discuss that too in the future. For now, let's continue where we left off. And it was that the humanoid races are the norm in the universe and among most common ones, if not the most common ones. Space people, or stellar people, biological, physical, as you and me. There are countless of other species, obviously, that will look different than humans, with tiny to huge mental and physical differences inside and outside. But most interstellar humanoid races, if dressed in a normal terrestrial way walking the streets of Kansas, would not be recognized as anything else than that, someone from Kansas or a tourist. I cannot stress enough how important this is. Humanity is not indigenous to Earth and did not evolve on Earth, as Darwin claims, because they are simply everywhere, at least in this galactic quadrant. How did they get there? They didn't. They have always been there. Are they us from the future? Many of them individually are time travelers, as they do have that capacity, and I will explain in detail how that works later on. But no, the ones I am referring to up there in space right now, no, they are not us from the future. Are they from another dimension? Not really. And in short, no, if we regard other dimensions as something less physical. Those less physical beings do exist. But here I am talking about the flesh and bone physical people, born and living outside Earth, with all physical needs as you and me. People. They eat, sweat, go to the bathroom, sleep, get angry, sad, and everything else that characterizes you as well. How can we call them and us in general? Us, Earth humans, and them space humans? Pleiadian humans? Centauri humans? Well, obviously, they can all be called after their place of origin. But the most general denomination for all of us together would be Lyrians, Lyrian humans. Why Lyrians? How the non-terrestrial races themselves understand it is that the human beings, in general, have originated from the planets orbiting the star Vega, which is found in Lyra constellation. And therefore, the human-looking people everywhere are called Lyrian humans. We are all Lyrians, whether on Earth or outside, from the same Lyrian branch, the oldest known human-looking root race as of what is known now. We all look alike, and we didn't evolve on only one planet, as they make us believe on Earth. From the point of view of a non-terrestrial interstellar human, the existence of a greater humankind which exists and lives among countless stars in this galaxy alone is completely natural and obvious. So natural, it is impossible to conceive the idea that humans could evolve and exist only on one single planet. In fact, let's look into this more, as it's important. For the non-terrestrial humans out there, it's inconceivable to imagine they would only exist on one planet. They understand humankind to be everywhere. But what about us? How have we been programmed to perceive extraterrestrials? As humans too? And also, how do I know all this really? If we have been conditioned to believe that human beings evolved and exist only on Earth, then, as a logical consequence, all non-Earth beings, even if they exist, must look totally different than us, right? That's why we are usually bombarded with all kinds of images of extraterrestrials looking all but human. Green aliens with antennas, scary-looking ones, etc. This is yet another consequence of making people believe they evolved on Earth. It negates the possibility of any other human-looking person being extraterrestrial. Even if seen and interacted with, and even if they told you who they were, they would automatically be taken for lying humans. If someone looks human, then it must be human. I believe that the program of brainwashing people into the matrix perception agreement that all ET must be weird looking and weird sounding is the attack on all Lyrian extraterrestrials waiting to interact openly with the terrestrial race, even if that was possible or allowed. This must change. This tendency to assume that anything extraterrestrial cannot look familiar also applies to how we expect their crafts and objects to be. If it's relatable, it must be human. If it's super weird, then it's ET. The reality is different. Many ET crafts are very advanced, but still recognizable as technology made by the human mind, with similar components and elements throughout. And I will explain why in a bit. Oh, look at that. Just as I am talking about the crafts, we have one passing by real close. Well, in reality, they wouldn't be passing so close. It's made this way for the video's sake, but I'm showing it to you so you can see many elements here that are recognizable, made by the Lyrian mind. This is a rendition of a real spacecraft, by the way. You can see very long antennas at the front, full of cameras and sensors, some with lenses over 2 meters in diameter, looking down. Windows, as all Lyrian humans need those. Nothing would happen, by the way, if they opened them, because what keeps the ship pressurized is not the window or the hull, that's only secondary. The primary pressurization comes from the shields that each ship has. Also, navigation lights, green on the right, red on the left. That's used in space too, not just on Earth, by the way. Engines at the back, some at the front, and many other familiar components. As you see, it's not some strange-looking ship, although those exist too, but practically made by the human Lyrians. And it doesn't mean it's any less extraterrestrial. This programming also extends to how we expect the ET people to talk and behave. If it's cryptic and strange sounding, it would be ET. If the person sounds just like us, perhaps with slight accent, if any, it cannot be anyone from outside. Another damaging misconception. Add to the mix all the New Age misconceptions about the extraterrestrials as beings of light, orbs, or angels, unreachable and enigmatic, and what we end up with is a total mess. All the above do exist, by the way, but again, it's not who the physical ET people I'm talking about are. The facts are different. The barrier between the terrestrial and stellar humans are very often blurry and undefined, with the biggest, most obvious one being that the first one is born and developed on Earth, and the latter is not. But apart from this and many other differences, there are also many similarities between us, something that not many people on Earth can grasp yet, and we must start to understand this and not be surprised. That is something very hard for humans to understand or accept. They imagine that if something or someone is from another planet, star system even more, then whatever they have must be terribly exotic and different from here. And that is correct. That is so. But not only. We, for example, have many musical instruments that are virtually identical to the ones on Earth. Piano and violin as some examples.
Are you surprised with what you just heard? A little cognitive dissonance sneaking in? Pianos outside Earth? Let me then give you a little bit of context to understand this. Stellar cultures, unlike the one on Earth, are not isolated from one another. They are interstellar, and they constantly share, cooperate, and import ideas and customs among themselves. This includes importing and exporting inspirations into and from Earth. It has been always happening. It's simply something that Earth people are not aware of.
Everything everywhere in the universe is shared ideas. So culture is much more extensive than people on Earth think. Meaning that you find the same over and over in many places, but depending on the race, its influence, its morphology.
This occurs not only because of the interstellar travel capacity among races, but also because each soul, when passing on and being born again, may choose a different place for its next incarnation. And he or she will be taking with them the ideas absorbed in the previous one. Reincarnation subject, I know. We will get to that. Remember the previous video, Body and Soul, where we talked about taking the ideas and beliefs learned in our life into the future one? Like in the case of children who display specific talents or preferences from the very young age? Well, this is one of the mechanisms of implanting the ideas into other cultures.
There is yet another reason for why that happens: sharing of ideas. Among all members of the same species, human or not, independently of its location, there is something called collective unconscious uniting us all. For example, a horse in Senegal will act the same or similar as a horse in Pakistan, right? I have a dog, and even though she has her own unique traits, there are others she shares with other dogs around the world. Why is that? They haven't been together to learn their dog ways, no? They don't have to. A dog will be a dog. A cat will be a cat, irregardless of distances between them. The same applies to humans on Earth and all over the universe. We are all from the same Lyrian branch, the same root. In that sense, we are family. And despite different personalities and preferences, we will share characteristics common to all Lyrians, no matter how far we might be from each other. Besides, having same morphology, there is only so much we can design for our bodily template. That's why many of their crafts, even though very advanced, will have many elements that are known to us, and it won't mean they are terrestrial. Holding the same morphology, the species adapted the world around them to the common and specific needs of all human bodies, which also brings a way of thinking and reasoning very similar to that of terrestrial human beings. So many things in all these civilizations are common to what human beings have on Earth. Toothbrush is a toothbrush, and chair is a chair, with a twist depending on the culture. There is only a limited amount of things you can do for a human shape. So a table is still a table. You have toothbrushes and toilets, doorknobs and staircases. And let me throw in another interesting quote in here, explaining how different concepts travel from one culture to the next, including Earth. Many think some concepts originate on Earth. And no, many are imported. This has been going on since the beginning of time. And something important to note here is that the customs, fashions, concepts, art, and everything else that defines a civilization on Earth will be directly influenced depending on the type of non-terrestrial races being there at one point or another in Earth history. From the point of view of those races, it is all just a soup of ideas, concepts, technology, art, and everything else that is shared between various cultures in space.
Why is it important I say all this? Obviously, to make you understand that you are not alone in the universe and never have been. But especially so that you know you are accompanied by many more like you, people, stellar people, Eulerian family who look, talk, and behave a lot like you for the reasons explained above. And because you are wondering for sure, many of them very friendly. I can't go into much more in this video as time is running out, but let me just say this because for sure you're asking yourself this as well. Where are they and why don't they show themselves? Why they don't show openly, that's something too complex to explain in this video. We'll get to it, but I can briefly answer where they are.
Most of the civilizations out there are living peacefully in their planets and do not come here. Others have been watching and directly or indirectly involved for thousands of years. Others only sporadically. Many, you will be surprised, are closer than you think and mingling with humans on Earth, unrecognized. But in general, and just referring to the ones in the ships above Earth at this specific moment in time, we have a huge traffic of non-terrestrial origin in the orbit of our planet, with ships placed on several orbit heights at all times, depending on the individual role and task of each one of them. The big ones are mostly stationary if in higher orbit. The smaller ones are moving all over the place and can be seen many times as what humans call UFOs. If the big one is in a low orbit, it must move because it needs a force to counteract the Earth's gravity. The speed pulls the ship away from Earth to the equivalent to the Earth's gravitational pull on the hull, making an equilibrium. Speed keeps them suspended, countering and neutralizing it. That's a little technical fun fact on the side. Plenty of those in the future, by the way.
And important, let's not call them aliens, as that is a negative association. Those would be the species dangerous to Lyrians. The ones I'm talking about are simply extraterrestrial people. And lastly, none of this I share is new. It's how it's always been. So there is nothing to be anxious about if that's what you might be feeling. I know it can be much to accept, but isn't it thrilling to know there is so much more out there? And this is a good moment to pause and continue with our community friends to see what they first felt when they discovered we were not alone. And stay tuned because yes, I didn't forget, I will tell you how I actually know all this and everything else that will come in the future videos. Don't go anywhere, you don't want to miss it.
Community Workshop.
But first, let's listen to our friends. Let's go with Romanesco from USA and Angela from Colombia.
How did I feel when I realized I was not alone in the universe? And it's funny because I still am unsure if I'm not alone in the universe, and it's not conscious. Even though there's so much evidence, there's something in my mind which still makes me not believe it. I started off as being skeptical, started hearing about government UFO disclosures, and it was a blend. It was a blend between a slow realization with these abrupt periods where I would have these quantum leaps of realization of, oh my, really God? And my mind is still being blown by it. I noticed that the matrix programming is very, very powerful. I noticed that how I was raised and taught to believe, which we are alone in the universe, that it keeps wanting to creep back in. Yeah, it's very strange. If I don't constantly remind myself, I can forget. And also the emotions I feel are a huge buffet of emotions. Whereas sometimes I'll feel just filled with joy and peace, but other times it gets pretty lonely, and it can get pretty scary, because sometimes I would rather be alone in the universe than be with a lot of these other egregores and things that maybe don't have my best interests at heart. But then on the other side, to know that I'm not alone and know that I'm a soul, and I'm the VIP of the universe. I've got a soul, I've got a piece of the Creator within me, which just makes me very special. It makes me very unique. It makes me part of a tribe of all these other beings that have got souls. And the last part, to wrap it up, is that I'm just very grateful to know that I'm not alone with all of you. To know that some of you who are watching this right now, you are just like me, that I'm not the only weirdo on this planet feeling things and seeing things and having experience that a lot of other people aren't.
Makes me happy, gives me tranquility, and it gives me peace. That's what knowing that there is an interstellar family out there has given me. Of course, it was very complicated at the beginning to understand. At the beginning, it is for everyone. My family around me has no idea that there are interstellar beings. They won't be able to understand it. I have already tried every way, and I am a crazy person here, but okay.
Nice hat, Romanesco. Yes, this is something many people will experience. Matrix creeping in sometimes. Your friends and your families doubting you, like Angela said, and making you doubt yourself. It's not easy, for sure, to have the open outlook on these matters and still function in the matrix. We have been lied to for so long after all. People will stick to the old beliefs. About being lied to, that in itself brings different reactions too, like being a little angry. And that's the case of Charlie from USA and Daniel from Spain. who felt some of that.
How did I feel when I first found out that we're not alone in the universe? I felt happy, and I felt a lot of peace. I realized all the little things we argue and fight about and stress about here, most of it is pointless. It doesn't really matter. It's just an experience. You go through stages of anger at why am I being lied to about it, and things like that, but you get through those. The number one thing I feel is happiness, because I always knew there was a lot more than just this. If this was all there was, I couldn't even handle that.
I have no recollection as to what it was like when I first learned of the existence of extraterrestrial life, because I think I have always assumed that the existence of life in space was the norm. I guess it was exciting, or it's a feeling of joy to know you're not alone in this universe. And, as for today, my feelings are a little contradictory. On the one hand, I feel very happy, and on the other hand, the other feeling is a little bit like anger and rage at those who are here knowing about the existence of extraterrestrial life. They give us a discourse that the only thing that exists outside would be something very simple, like microorganisms, or beings, let's say, of a very low intelligence scale. So, knowing that they know that they do exist, it makes me tremendously angry that we have false information about extraterrestrial life. But there is no doubt that we are accompanied in this vast and infinite universe.
Okay, so Charlie and Daniel were a bit angry, but also happy. Understandable. Now, let's hear from some others. We have Marianne from Mexico, very international group, Michael from USA, Jan Tor from Chile, Francesc from Spain, and Carlos from UK.
We lived in a little ranch, and there was absolutely no electricity. So one day, my dad went out with his telescope to see Alpha Centauri and Mars, which were his passions, and he was there watching the stars fascinated. And suddenly he started shouting, come and see this." And in front of us there was a huge ship, and everything around looked super illuminated. And then my dad, super excited, says, "Greet your star brothers, greet your star brothers." So my sister, my mom, and I all went, "Hello." It was something impressive that has always accompanied me throughout my life. I can tell you that in this universe, this little lost planet in space, it can't be that we are completely alone and abandoned to ourselves. And it would be very arrogant to think that only the human being exists, alone in the universe. Everything around us is full of life, everything, absolutely everything, from the earth to the beyond.
I love looking up at the sky. Sometimes when I look up, I see what I think is a spacecraft. And I think, who is flying that machine? And what are they doing here? Ever since I was a young child, I was very interested in all things space and space travel. So much so that my parents, when I was younger, very young, they took me to a remote spot from my home to view Sputnik during its first traverse in orbit around our planet. That experience lit my curiosity and my interest. I was able to hear and listen to what I believe were credible whistleblowers that spoke about their experience with space travel, and relationships with extraterrestrial beings that look like us, like humans. And what I hope is that during my lifetime, that I have the opportunity to meet one of these beings in person. And I believe that's humanity's destiny, that we, at some point in our time, we will be in direct communication with these extraterrestrial beings who want to interact with us and have relationships with us and share knowledge and interests. That's my hope. That's my dream.
For me, it was something very special because I learned this since I was very young. I think I was about 12 years old when I studied the astronomy atlas that my father had. My father knew about all these things about extraterrestrials that visited us long ago on this planet. And he told me that there were gods in ancient Greece, that those gods were not gods, they were extraterrestrial beings. He talked to me about the Vikings, he talked to me about the cultures of Egypt, my father talked to me about the wars in ancient India, and he told me that those were extraterrestrial battles that had technology. When I was 12 or 13 years old, I listened to those stories, and it gave me a good understanding that there is something else in the world, and to such an extent that I would go to the backyard, and sometimes I would feel a great emotion looking at the stars. For me, it was very important to know that there is something else.
Well, it is something that really did not surprise me. It is something that I have known since I was a child. At the end of the day, life is not an exception but a constant, and life makes its way to the most inhospitable places, the most deserted wastelands, the deepest of depths, and it is absurd to think that we are the only intelligent beings in the universe. Investigating through the years, and through contactees and extraterrestrial disclosures, my suspicions were confirmed that there are beings that have always been visiting us. In fact, throughout history, they have been the gods and angels, the messengers that come from heaven. The Bible has many references to them. And I say that as a former religion teacher. Discovering more about the subject for me is an immense satisfaction, discovering that we are more and more certain that we are not alone.
How was it when I realized that we are not alone? Well, first I felt a great emotion. Then the fact of knowing that there are other civilizations scattered throughout the immensity of the universe gave me a great peace of mind as well. It gives me an inner peace, and I sincerely believe that somehow we should try to get closer to them. Not to close ourselves in the idea that life only exists on Earth. There are more like us out there. Humanity is not native to the Earth.
Professor of religion. Wow. Thank you, guys. On a personal note, I have also studied religion, comparative religion, at the university in Australia, very long time ago. Although it was an academic study of them all. It wasn't focused on just a particular one. Okay, now we have two interesting gentlemen, both from Poland, where I am from. First is Darek, long-term supporter of this community, and Szymon. Attention! Szymon is the one in charge of Space Academy branch in Poland. He edits all the videos and is also a lector.
I really don't remember my first reaction to this, when I realized that extraterrestrial races, civilizations, actually existed. I don't remember the stage of my life at which I thought otherwise. And I even forget that there are people living somewhere, for whom the existence of extraterrestrial races is something abstract. Because for me, it is simply obvious. What I have always felt and feel when I think about extraterrestrial civilizations is a nice, warm feeling. I would say nostalgic. It's a kind of longing. I think that's the best word. Longing. I would very much like to meet our extraterrestrial friends. And I sincerely believe that, sooner or later, or rather sooner, that it will happen.
When I first discovered that we are not alone in the universe, it was not a shock to me, quite the opposite. I felt peace and a kind of inner confirmation. This subject has always been close to me, so this idea that we are not alone here was something completely natural for me. Over time, as I began to deepen my knowledge from various sources, I began to form a certain picture in my mind, and this picture was completely different from what they show in science fiction films. There, so-called aliens are often shown as a threat, while it turns out that many times our extraterrestrial relatives are very positive, supportive, even caring towards Earth and humans. I feel excitement and gratitude that we live in a time when more and more truth is coming to light, and that as humanity we are getting closer and closer to a fuller understanding of who we really are, and with whom we share this infinite universe. All that is left now is to wait with hope and an open heart for the moment when we as humanity will make direct contact, an open, global, conscious contact with our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters.
Thank you, so-called co-patriots, because I'm from Poland too. I appreciate your thoughts very much. I myself can't say that for myself, that I always knew. It came to me in my 20s, but I will speak about it maybe some other time, because it's not about me today. Okay, last contribution, Christy from New Zealand.
Yeah, I would wonder if there is actually life outside of this planet beyond small amoebas that Earth science tries to tell us about. And so I've always believed in extraterrestrials because it just seemed logical to me that there's more life in this infinite universe. But I wasn't 100% certain I just kind of hoped. And then I came across this community, and it was like, like a huge wow moment, because I started to realize that it wasn't just hope anymore. As I dug deeper, I realized 100% that we are definitely not alone. There are extraterrestrials, and they're living on all kinds of planets and all kinds of societies. There's literally every creature that you can imagine existing outside of Earth, and that includes humans. There are actually more human people that look just like you and me. When I fully understood this, my consciousness expanded big time. I could see bigger perspectives. I felt more free and not so limited. And I felt a stronger connection to everything in existence. And to be honest, I felt less lonely. And I also felt this huge hunger to know more and to absorb every detail that I could find out about extraterrestrials and life outside of Earth. And there's no feelings of reverence, like there's no idolizing or worshipping or anything like that. I don't feel those things, and they don't want us to feel those things. It's more like friendship or family. So I hope if you embark on this journey of finding out about extraterrestrials and the people who are living in space, that you'll feel just as empowered as I do, because that's what they want for us, to feel that we are powerful creators with a connection to them and everything in existence.
Thank you, Christy. I left this one for the end because Christy mentioned something very important here. Not idolizing them is crucial. They are not gods, not angels, not superior in any shape or form, okay? Simply people, perhaps with a wider perspective on some things, although also not always, as we will see in the future. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Wow, another big class. I always feel they will be short and then I can't stop sharing. I can only hope that you are enjoying it. And no, I didn't forget. I did mention I will say how I know all this, didn't I? Well, what do you think? Do you think I just know all this because of the research I have done? Are these just my personal thoughts? Everything presented in my videos is written by me, except for what is in the quotes. But it is all based on what I have been learning through the direct contact with some of the people I am referring to here as stellar. Remember what I said, they are closer than we think, most of them directly in our orbit? Well, that's where all this information is from. And I'm going to leave it there for now. Do I have a proof of it? Not a direct one, but remember that the whole system on Earth is maintained this way on purpose. I and we are just trying to bend it a little because we believe humans deserve to know more. The isolation has been hurting them for too long, or at least that's what I think. And no, I am not one of them, if you were wondering. If you are patient and stick around, more and more will be revealed as we go. Let's finish here for now. Oh, and what's the subject for the future video? A surprise one, more personal one, a beginning of a new section with our program, and that is Gosha off script. All my video classes, if you haven't noticed, are always pre-written by me and scripted. But this one will be totally spontaneous, where I will sometimes share with you my own personal thoughts, revelations, analysis of the topics we are discussing in the main classes. In the first Gosha off script, I will share what I myself felt when I discovered we were not alone and how I feel about it now. So until then, thank you for being here until now, and bye.
Class summary. The humanoid races are the norm in the universe, and among most common ones, people like us, physical and biological. Humanity is not indigenous to Earth, as they are literally everywhere, at least in this galactic quadrant. The most general term for all of us together would be Lyrians, or Lyrian humans, after the root race of all humanoid races. For all interstellar humans, the existence of other human-looking races out there is obvious and natural. We are programmed to think that anything extraterrestrial is strange, exotic and cryptic, that includes their craft, how they talk and behave. That's a misconception. The barrier between the ET people and us is often blurry. All interstellar cultures share and import ideas, and therefore you can see many common elements between them. Importing of ideas also happens through the migration of souls, through reincarnation. In addition, what unites all Lyrian races is the etheric collective mind field, and that is why we have many similar traits, irregardless of the distance between us. We also have same morphology, therefore many items will repeat, such as staircases, chairs, beds, etc. There are more people exactly like us in space, always have been, and it's time we stop being surprised.